Hello again, a very good morning. We're glad you're still with us here. If you are just joining us, welcome to Morning at NTV. I'm Chris Higenyi. You are joining us at a time when we are heading into the Kickstarter segment of the program. We are discussing the plight of people living with albinism, and our guest this morning is Olive Namtebi, Executive Director, Albinism Umbrella. She's going to be speaking to us about everything albinism, from the fact that there are people who live with albinism and have their challenges, and everything that is being done by the organization and other sector players to ensure that life is better for them, but most importantly, amplify the fact that stigma against people living with albinism should be something of the past. It's very deplorable if somebody out there still thinks that anybody who lives with albinism is less of a human being. No doubt, very warm welcome to the program, Olive Namtebi. How is Albinism Umbrella Organization and the campaign doing?
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm glad I'm back at NTV.
Yeah, no doubt.
Albinism Umbrella is good. We have just celebrated the International Albinism Awareness Day that is held every 13th June. And this was our 8th commemoration of the day.
Okay, so
yes.
On Monday you guys were commemorating big things?
Big things.
Where were you?
I was in Lira City. Hey, no longer just the district.
It's no longer district.
But the city. And that is really emphasized there.
Yeah, sure, no doubt.
So we're very excited that every 13th June, Albinism Umbrella has been at the forefront of commemorating this day.
Yeah.
The day is called International Albinism Awareness Day. You know, that triggers something. Awareness Day. You understand?
Yeah.
So meaning there is a lot of ignorance about this issue. So on that day we gather to basically create awareness. Awareness about something you live with, somebody you see next door, but you never know who they are. And on this particular day, something great happened. Yes.
Wow.
We've been in the advocacy campaign for 10 years or so plus. Yeah. But milestones have been got, for instance, being part of the People with Disability Act 2020. Albinism is fully recognized. That didn't come easy, but we are there.
Yeah.
That is a big milestone. One other one that we celebrated on Monday this year, 13th June, is the launch of the National Action Plan. Yeah. You would wonder what's that.
National Action Plan. You'll be telling us a lot about the National Action Plan. Just take us through the, first of all, the celebrations, the commemorations, and what exactly Albinism Umbrella does. Yeah.
Good. Thank you again. Albinism Umbrella is a local registered NGO that advocates for the rights of persons with albinism, their well-being. We have a vision that says a society where people with albinism are dignified and realize their full potential. Now, dignity comes in many ways. Dignity is, I can access education, I can go to school, I can go to hospitals. You are fully recognized as a person who has every other right. Like the convention says, we are all equal before the law and we have equal rights.
That's right.
So Albinism Umbrella works with 4 themes. That is security, social justice, health, and livelihood. So those 4 pillars rotate, our programs rotate around those 4 pillars. You really see that health is one big pillar because people with albinism are affected by 2 major health challenges. One, because we do not have that precious dark pigment you have. It protects you from the sun.
That's right.
I do not have it. So we really suffer from skin cancer. 2, my sight, even if I have helps, visual helps, will never be corrected.
That's right.
So those 2 major health challenges really hinder our well-being and our participation in society. So we really work around that. But we can't forget livelihood. We have been in the pandemic for 2 years. And the one thing that has come out so strongly is the vulnerability has increased for the very marginalized. You know, the gap is widening each day.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's very poignant, and it's something that, of course, we should be able to reflect on. Just before we go to the National Action Plan and what it entails in pushing this awareness forward, let me just take you back to the pandemic period, COVID-19. The average Ugandan got a little bit curtailed in the conduct of everyday work and life. I don't know how it was for members of
With
society
albinism.
living with albinism, especially in terms of accessing some of the health benefits that you need to be able to access, didn't it affect the livelihood, and hasn't it triggered some sort of a dominoes that you could be dealing with in terms of pulling together resources to be able to attend to it?
Absolutely. Everyone was affected by the pandemic in different ways.
Yeah.
But of course, like I said, we are more marginalized. We are at the tail end. We're just coming up, even with disability. There are those ones that are known, someone using a wheelchair, but now albinism is quite not understood. So in the pandemic, during the pandemic, remember the very first one 2020, where no public transport, people had to walk. Yeah. Now, for me to walk under the sun for even 30 minutes, I am exposing myself to cancer, and this actually worsened the situation for some of the patients who already had cancer. One, cancer is, we don't have a cure right now. No cure. And when you're put on medication, you are supposed to religiously follow it. Unfortunately, certain conditions did not allow, so we had some deaths registered, not because of COVID, but because they had no access to medical facilities. Then looking at livelihood, many of our people, very low education or none at all, are either street vendors or they're at a school, something, doing small odd jobs. Everything was closed, so many of our members lost their livelihood, and the condition was worsened. One, there is stigma, there is discrimination. You find this lady alone in her home. There is one actually who was on the bypass who used to sell mangoes. And now life became worse. She had to sleep in church, really looking for life. That's right. Somebody who can accept you and say, okay, you're a human being. But we thank God for Albinism Umbrella and the team that works there. Okay. We raised our voice. That's right. And went to the office of the Prime Minister and said, hey, we are also here. We need your support. No yes. We thank the UN Human Rights. They had the right to move on the road. So we asked them to help us take these creams that we use to protect our skin to the very person. So at least Kampala and Wakiso received these creams door to door. That was amazing to them. They had never seen such a thing.
Beautiful, beautiful, no doubt. Now, on the 14th of June, the President, was able to unveil to the nation through the Finance Minister the national budget. And one of the aspects that were given attention to were items that help people with disability. I do not want to classify albinism as a disability.
Please
but okay, it is. So that means that some of the products that are needed are very critical in the protection of the skin and perhaps ensuring that eye impairments do not get worse are some of those that will not be taxed. I do not know whether you're privy to this information or whether you were consulted and you are confident enough that it's actually going to roll out.
Interestingly, that is a good step in the right direction. There are so many assistive devices. But particularly one thing we've got to learn that much as their presidential directives and the budget is made, there are backdoor processes that must take place. Now, for people with albinism, this I'll speak. Yes, maybe the sunglasses, but unlikely, really. They still may not be in that list. Critical to us is the sunscreen. And until we have the sunscreen on the essential list of medicine, we'll never have anything. So yes, it is good, it is in the budget, but Ministry of Health cannot purchase it until it is on that list. So that is a dilemma, or it is still an advocacy point that we need to push and push and push. Yes, this is done, wheelchairs, braille and all this, but we are not there. Why? Ministry of Health is tied. They're like, no, we can't, because the list is not updated. Your drug or so is not there, so we cannot purchase it. So this is one thing that, yes, we're moving in the right direction, but could the ministry expedite the updating of this essential list? And then our dream is that we'll have these essential medicines up to health center 4. ARVs are got maybe even health center 2s. Exactly. So why not the few less than 1 million people in Uganda can get these in the health centers?
Okay.
So,
well, that now takes us into the National Action Plan that was launched on Monday.
Yes.
Now, does it capture these aspects, the way you put them,
Absolutely.
in terms of advocacy, in terms of the search and the push for implementation on the part of the ministry, how broad or how effective does it help in, well, achieving the goals that you set out to?
Thank you so much. Like I said, having the National Action Plan on Albinism launched was a big milestone, and it is indeed a big milestone. We thank our Honorable Minister for Disability, Honorable Asamo Helen. She's walked with us this journey.
Oh,
and
wow.
even as she launched in NIRA, she said, this is just the step. We need another meeting to engage stakeholders to see how this is going to be implemented. You very well know that we can have as many launches as possible, and then things go just on the shelf.
A lip service.
So this plan has 10 priority areas, and one of them, actually number one, is awareness raising, because we know that until people understand albinism, it will still be a myth for us to enjoy our right.
That's right.
So awareness raising, I'm excited, we just signed an MOU with the Ministry of Health to even help us raise awareness. It's interesting that even medical workers do not know albinism, yet it is genetic, and I'm sure they have more information about science than the rest of the population.
Are you sure of
Yes,
what you're
absolutely.
talking about? Medical
Absolutely.
workers
Yes,
are
please.
not sure
About albinism. Case
Interesting.
in point, a mother is giving birth and the child has albinism, and this nurse is like, you know your child is premature, you cover them, and you're like, okay. So the National Action Plan comes and says, please raise awareness, but two, may we have access to health. And the plan says, if we have this health package that has sunscreen, the wide-brimmed hats, the long-sleeved, you know, if we have that health package, you know, you have the eye checkups.
That's right.
We will have a better population. We go ahead to look at access to education. We are not saying build for us schools. No, that would actually be, you know, discriminating in its own.
Very discriminatory. Yeah.
So we only want reasonable accommodation in the general school curricula, because today it is not there. A child with albinism will walk in class, will be treated like any other, or even sent at the back, oblivious of the challenges that they have. So we are saying, if teachers are sensitized, this inclusive policy, is it allowing any teacher? We've had situations where a teacher is like, but really, this child, I've been to some schools, private schools at that, and they said, but this is a business, that is one child, you know? But he has a right to education. So that kind of arrogance that some head teachers have, if a policy would come from the ministry and say, hey, every learner has equal right to this, we'll be able to have people not drop out because of bullying, because someone has raised a few shillings to go to school, and then there is no accommodation.
Out of so much hardship.
Exactly. The other priority area we're looking at is access to work and employment. We're saying, yes, we may not really be, I mean, not everybody will have an office job. Can we be availed skills? Can we be even given a chance? Because some of us, I speak for myself and others, are looking for jobs, they have the skills, but somebody looks at the papers, looks at you and is like, okay, maybe we try someone else. The papers are good, but then because the person has the condition albinism, they're very skeptical. We've had even medical practitioners. Dr. Josias was denied a job and told, you chase our clients. Like, really? Really, in the medical profession? But that happens. So we want access to work and employment. And this National Action Plan is so peculiar to Uganda. You well know that we have a very high population of refugees in this country. It's interesting, the population of people with albinism in the refugee camps is high.
Is also high.
Ramanja tops the list, Nachivale, Chaka, we've been there.
Give us some numbers.
Of
have them off-head?
Off-head, it's an estimate.
It's an estimate,
Ramanja has around 56 people with albinism, Nachivale 25, so Chaka may have actually like 35. Now they face very peculiar challenges, even in the camps. Remember, albinism has a lot of stigma, myths and discrimination. Now this is a mixed community where a Chris and Olive are meeting, and then Chris has his own beliefs about Olive, and then you are meeting in a situation of bad luck. And I mean, I remember, I think in Hoima, one of the parents had to be brought near the security place, the police, because they were facing threats of ritual sacrifice. So then even the teams that work with refugee community, they do not know the peculiar challenges that we face. Providing food and shelter is good enough, but we're saying people with albinism require more. They require the cream. They require more protection, sensitization of the entire community that they are humans like us. So that for us in the plan came out so strongly. What also came out is children with albinism. Yeah. We've just been celebrating the Day of the African Child. You know, children have peculiar needs. Children suffer different issues. So we want the plan to take part, or rather to consider the early childhood development of these people. Because if we don't, then there is a lot we miss out. You know, that the formative years. That's right. So that is when the mom is not sure, the dad is taken off, you know. On
that particular aspect, just take us through the detail of what kind of plan you have in terms of attending to these children, because you could have the national action plan and then expecting government or other stakeholders to help in the push for its rollout. But what exactly have you designed from your point of view? Because at the end of the day, the services being received are to people living with albinism. It is very, sometimes in African context, where decisions or measures are built and designed by people who do not relate. Now that you relate, what have you put together to be rolled out?
Thank you. For children with albinism, to begin with, you can't have children without parents. So our first focus is parents, sensitizing parents to appreciate and love their children. That is very high on the agenda, because this child, before they come to school, they've been to a home. But what we see today, that a child may lack a home, a comfortable, safe home, even at 1 week old. You know, the mother may decide to lock her up or him and take off the father. Definitely, there is nothing on you that shows you fathered that child. So we are focusing on parents first. Then for those that have managed to go to school, to target those particular schools, the teachers, and sensitize them about this child. But also, right, like we're saying, talking about to the parents, we will not go to every school. We are telling the parents to be bold enough to approach the schools and ask for reasonable accommodation. Because there is a lot of ignorance. Until I am told my sight is bad, you may not know.
You may not actually appreciate the fact that
and
you're
remember that our impairment is not general. I've seen children, I remember I was in Chichusa, there was a 3-year-old whose sight was terribly bad. That when the team from Mengo looked at her, they're like, she's close to blind. Yet, growing up, I thought children are okay until you age, then the sight is bad. That's a myth, you know. So we are particularly linking with stakeholders like Mengo Hospital that will work on the site. We have identified some hospitals for the eye in other places, like the Ruharo Mission. There is St. Joseph in Kitugum, in Tororo, I think it's St. Benedict. So we are mapping those areas where we're saying these are our focal points for children with albinism. Schools, we're still depending on the government, on the general
framework. That
health, we are, now that we have the MOU with the ministry, we want champions in there. Community health, can you help on this? That we begin right from childhood. The community development officers are our biggest allies at the grassroots. Very, very big, and we are doing every effort that we can that we bring them on board.
All right, that's very positive, and of course we do hope that it rolls out as exactly how you've put it. We are honored as NTV to be able to amplify these particular messages and be able to broadcast them when we do have the opportunity. Now, let's go to the lighter note of aspects. A person living with albinism is pretty much talented, creative, and they can do a lot of things. I do not know whether there is a platform that harnesses these talents, athletics, music and the arts. There are boys and girls who are out there who can do great things. What is the strategy like to be able to tap into that extraordinary talent? We want to see a national hero. That will be one story that will inspire so many across the country and indeed the region.
Interesting. I can't say we have everything put together, but one particular thing we know, even in Lira, those who were there attest to this. We had one of our own, Fidel. He's actually a refugee from Congo.
Okay.
And you know, he's now so assimilated in Uganda. He was showing us some good music and strokes.
Wow.
They recorded a very powerful, surely share it with you, with another person, Peter Ojik. So we actually have many, I think Congo and music very synonymous.
No doubt.
So we have quite many people with that in the music sector. Today, I think Honorable Babi will be excited. We're in the back door working with the Uganda Netball Association.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because we know that
that's very
we
positive
have
news.
talent. And sports, I can't say much.
It has the power to do so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just watch the space.
Okay,
there
watch
is something
the space.
coming.
No doubt, we shall be looking forward to that. Well, of course, one day we can host some of them and be able to amplify, but most importantly, share. They can share how their story rolls out. And then out there, we do believe that somebody who is grappling with the same condition, but is just waiting for something to can be able to come out and be able to live a life and of course achieve everything that they need to do. Now that we are entering the final bend of this discussion, I would like you to put together your final thoughts.
Thank you so much. And looking at the viewer today, we're happy that we have a national action plan. And this plan actually is estimated for $5 million for the 5 years. That's 1 million per year. This sounds so big, but not everything needs money. Awareness, you looking at me today, knowing what albinism is, you're an ambassador of change, the first priority area of creating awareness, you can simply do that. And looking at the first 5 key areas, awareness, education, health, access to employment, and accountability. Looking at our safety is key. So I leave you with this, that you are part of the solution. Thank you.
Okay. Now, as we sign out, I would like to pay special commendation to Mengo Hospital, as you mentioned, also Ruharu Hospital, and then St. Mary's
St. Joseph's
Kitugum, and in Tororo you said?
St. Benedict.
St. Benedict, for the work they are doing in supporting the advocacy and entrenching awareness as far as albinism is concerned in the country. That has been Olive Namtebi, the Executive Director at Albinism Umbrella, an organization that of course ensuring that people living with albinism have a voice and their issues are attended to effectively and as quickly as possible. Let's now take a break. Of course, when we return, we shall have Stephen Mbide on the ground and he will be updating us about delayed elections. Stay with us.